Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Hone at Queen Mary University of London. This is a little video about Linhenykus monodactylus and the new model that's been produced for this. So I was part of the team that actually found Linhenykus. I didn't find it myself, infuriatingly. It was found by my friend Jonas Schwanier when he was probably within sight of me. He was not very far away at all. And it was a really cool little discovery because Linhenykus is part of a group of small theropod dinosaurs called alvarezsaurs. Alvarezsaurs are fascinating. They are probably the smallest dinosaurs at adult, so the smallest adults, including Linhenykus, which is one of the smallest, would be less than the size of a chicken. So 125-ish grams, about this big from nose to tail, so very, very small indeed, even as adults. They have incredibly long legs, they have really quite tiny heads, and then they have unbelievably weird arms that are both very, very, very short indeed, but also really, really strong. And this is an incredibly weird combination, and this is the only group that really shows it. We see short arms, obviously, things like tyrannosaurs, nobelisaurs, and various other carnivorous lineages. But in the alvarezsaurs, as I say, they're both short and robust, and usually they have only one really big finger and then one or two little splints of bones. Linhenykus' species name is monodactylus because it has only one finger, so it's the one, to my knowledge, the only one-fingered dinosaur that we know of. Some birds go down that route, of course, but they're much more derived. And another massive question that's associated with things is, what on earth are they doing with these very, very weird arms? And the mainstream interpretation has always been, and indeed we had a new paper coming out just last week or so, really kind of reaffirming this, looking at the muscle structure and things like this, that they're basically doing some kind of digging action. So if you look at things like anteaters, aardvarks, armadillos, and anything that's really good at digging into, in particular, very hard substrates, they tend to have a whole suite of adaptations that we also see in alvarezsaurs. So they actually tend to have something that locks the spine up and makes the body rigid. They tend to have really odd-shaped humerus to apply a certain amount of forces. They have a big thing called the olecranon, so that's basically a jut of bone out the back of the elbow, which gives it really good leverage. And then this really, really solid wrist and very large fingers with single, very large claws, so they can put all their power through one point. And this is what we see in the alvarezsaurs, and therefore we think they're digging. A lot of people then say they're digging for termites or ants, and actually big colonies of termites and ants aren't really known in the Cretaceous, so it's more likely that they're going after things like beetle larvae that are deep inside wood or stuff like this, and then breaking in to get them out. It's still an odd combination because the arms are so short, but then they are bipeds. They run around on their back legs. So they don't need to have very long arms to walk on, which of course things like pangolins and aardvarks do. The other really interesting thing about them, in addition to being so tiny, is they have very, very long legs indeed. And those legs actually show adaptations for efficiency. And actually this is something, believe it or not, you see in a couple of anteaters and other lineages, where they're actually quite common long-distance travellers, because things like ants and termites can actually be quite a long way apart from each other, or at least big colonies of them. And similarly, alvarezsaurs often living in deserty environments. There might not be that many trees around or that many productive sites. So perhaps that's part of their ecology as well, that they're running around and basically travelling a long distance to get to one site, feed for a little bit, get a bit of food, and then move on to the next one. We suspect they're nocturnal. They have very large eyes, and there was a study done a few years ago suggesting that these are another group of dinosaurs. We already have this in the Troodontids, with asymmetric ears. So their ears are different sizes and shapes and orientations, and this is something we also see in owls. So these animals are incredibly good at picking up sound and picking a direction, which again might work for finding things like beetles scrabbling around inside trees. So yeah, Linhenykus is incredibly interesting. It's one of the more complete alvarezsaurs. They're very, very rarely found. It's the only one with one finger. It's actually a relatively early branch of the later alvarezsaurs, and so that gives us an indication that their fingers were basically under a bit of neutral selection. After that big finger, evolution doesn't really care if you've got one extra little digit or two extra little digits if they're basically non-functional, and so that number seems to go up and down. So that's really cool. And yeah, it's from, I don't think I said at the start, it's from Inner Mongolia, so the northern part of central China. found it out in the desert, environments with lots of Protoceratops, things like Velociraptor. We've got a thing called Linhenykus, which some people think is similar to something or the same as something from Mongolia, but it's definitely different to Velociraptor, but a very similar animal overall. So these were desert-dwelling animals running around under the feet of much, much larger dinosaurs and scurrying about, travelling long distances at night looking for insects. This beautiful little model pays tribute to that with the Protoceratops model, and I won't give it away if you can work it out, but there is a bit of a tribute to a much more famous fossil from Mongolia, kind of hidden as an Easter egg in this. I think it's a beautiful rendition. You very rarely see renditions of alvarezsaurs, and this is a really nice one. So very, very cool little project, and I was really pleased to be involved. Hopefully that was interesting.